All right. Hi. Well, today I have April Miller, owner of Sand Dollar Bookkeeping, with us. And welcome, April. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So, first of all, how are you doing these days with everything that's going on?
So it's definitely been, like everybody says, we've repeated the same terms over and over that it's unprecedented. And I think we're all feeling the same thing. For me, it's a little, I've actually been very busy, busy trying to help not only my clients, but educate others that aren't my clients, friends, family, on resources that are out there for them, get the information to them in the best, easiest layman's terms to understand. Information has changed a lot over the last month too, on all the programs and information out there for them. So it's really been a lot. I've kind of compared it to being back in school, like it's almost like a college course, trying to understand, COVID-19 resources 101.
Right. So, what have you found have been like the the biggest concerns of business? Has it just been like where could they maybe get a loan or some help right now, or
I think a lot of the problems are that you talk to people who don't have their taxes current, or they don't have their activity current. They don't have their reports that are needed to get this done now. And if you don't have this done, if you don't have it readily available, um, you're out of luck.
right?
You don't have the reports that are needed, the information. Um, the relationship with your bank has been a big deal, I think. Um, how good of a relationship you have with a bank, whether it's a bigger bank, a local bank. Um, that's been one thing. I see a lot of people that kind of just say, "Well, I've sent this stuff to the bank, and I'm just waiting to hear." I got one email, 3 weeks ago, and I'm encouraging everybody to stay on those banks, those lenders, as much as they can. Some other people are also they're applying at other places for things like the PPP. Like you could possibly apply for it at another lender at other places and wait to hear back, because it's not like a hard. They're not running your credit. They're not running anything, um, so that it would hurt your chances. uh, that's what I've done. I think you just have to stay on all of these resources, all of these banks, educate yourself as much as possible, watch as many webinars, um, get your finances in order, your business finances. And from the business standpoint, that's really what I've seen. It's just been surprising that people did not have this information readily available.
Right. So now you're a bookkeeper, and you help people like organize, because as you kind of mentioned, like most companies maybe didn't have this readily available. Is that something that you're like, hey, look, here's what, if you give to me, I can provide to you, kind of thing, so that they're not in those kind of situations?
Right. So I am a bookkeeper. I don't do taxes, but I pretty much do everything else. I've been in this field for 16 years. I was a CFO prior to starting my own company. So my knowledge is a little more expertise, higher level financial than most bookkeepers.
Mhm.
I can pick apart profit margins and kind of see where people are spending too much money on their costs. Where some bookkeepers do that, but other ones just kind of, they're just doing the data entry, the in and out, and making sure things balances, and they don't come back to you and tell you, okay, well, you're spending a lot here compared to your industry, or this is where you should be saving money. So I have a little more experience in that regard to do, some fundamental financial analysis for them to help them out. And that's really what I enjoy. That's my background. That's why I don't do taxes. I don't like that. I like the operational side of things.
Right.
So it's been rewarding to be able to see those clients of mine that have been able to get funding, that have gotten help to get their employees back, working as best they can.
Right.
Um, it's it's been a lot of work, but it is rewarding right now to see that all those efforts of keeping their stuff in balance, reconciled, beautiful reports is helping them to
Right.
get this money that they need right now.
Now, do you feel that that's been kind of your main thing right now? Then, like, people are just, oh crap, like, I just need the money right now. And
Yes. I mean, from the time I get up all day long, I'm getting constant messages, not just from clients, but just people, DMing me and asking me, should I try this? Should I try that? What should I do? And really that is consuming my time because a lot of the clients themselves, the businesses are actually closed at this time. Um, but yet my workload has definitely probably been the most it's been year to date, I'd say.
okay. And now, do you find that, like, I don't know, I guess I feel like we're just, as a society in a whole, like, so fragile to when something happened. And I know this is a big global pandemic that we're dealing with right now, but just to see how fragile people are to seeing, someone losing a job and then a week later they have no idea how they're going to feed their family, a business a month later, no idea how to stay afloat. I mean, do you find that as concerning as society as a whole, that that's where we all are?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the idea that that most people are living, paycheck to paycheck is extremely alarming. Um, I pray and hope that, everybody's making out of it, gets out of this okay, that they are able to put food on the table and that there's resources out there if they need that help. And hopefully, trying to look at it like glass half full, that we can take this as a learning experience to say, okay, now what do we need to do better? What does our family need to do better? What can we cut out? What do we need to do to make sure if this was to happen again, or something similar like this, or the breadwinner gets ill and can't work, what are we going to do to pay our bills? And it's extremely important that people look at this not just from the business side, but their personal interest and protect themselves better. It's very sad.
It really is. And, it worries me even with the businesses that are, we're able to get, maybe the loan that'll turn into a grant, these kind of different programs that were out there and stuff. And then other ones that may be faced with a loan that they're going to have to repay at some point in time, that maybe they weren't expecting to have to repay. And, but it's just, to me, like, it's just, as a business owner, I wouldn't want to feel so reliant on someone else, like in this case, the government through the SBA programs and things like that, to think of, okay, as a business owner, what needs to be in place so that I'm not in a position where, if something happens that I have to now go run for someone else's help. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, it's good that it's there, but
Absolutely. And many business, I shouldn't say most, but many business owners, when it comes to this kind of stuff, the financials, they want to bury their head in the sand. They really do. They don't know how much money they have in their bank account, or they don't know where it's going. They know that they're making money. They know that they're going out and providing services and getting paid. But at the end of the day, they're scratching their head because there's not enough to cover the bills and they don't understand why. And I see that a lot, and I see why. And it's because they don't pay attention to the finances and they don't pay attention to it. And that's okay if that's not your strong suit.
sure.
Totally understandable. That is something that you want someone in your corner looking out for you, doing it correctly. And you want somebody looking over their shoulder too.
Because you're still the one ultimately responsible. If, like, you were my bookkeeper and you said, oh, this is fine or whatever, and I don't think anything of it, and I submit these numbers, I mean, you're still on the hook. Like, you
Absolutely. You are the business owner. You got to put your big girl pants on and know what you're doing. I have some clients who they have a full-time bookkeeper. They have somebody that they have, but I still come in once a month and I'm a second set of eyes. And that employee or those employees see me walk in, they see me go over their entries and their stuff. And tell you what, it sets an example that if you were looking at too, I mean, this isn't what this call is about, but if you were an employee thinking about doing some kind of fraudulent activity, you're less likely because you know that there's a second set of eyes. And that's something that happens to business owners too, and they don't expect fraud. They say that, I wrote a blog article on this last year in November, that the average employee works for you for like 8 years that is committing fraud.
Wow. So someone you really would trust by that point.
Somebody that you would have, exactly, you would have no idea that you really trust them. So, setting up responsibilities and segregation of duties, meaning where one person is not responsible for your whole business world, is extremely important. And that's a reason why businesses don't know where their money's going. They don't know because it's, so-and-so takes care of it. And they've been with me forever. And you hear that a lot. And this has been eye-opening. And like I said, to not repeat it, we just hope that when we come out of this, that everybody takes this as a learning experience of what we can do better to better protect ourselves, better protect our business, our employees, everyone.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big, you're hearing right now, pivot, everybody needs to do this shift and pivot, but I feel like, okay, we're obviously in Florida and we're pretty much now, we're reopening, we're in phase 1, so we're starting to get back to normal, but, people should consider what stays normal, what changes back. And I think that, we've all had, it sounds like you've been super busy, but we've all had some time to kind of think about these things and realize, oh, I spent that much going out to eat and the movies, or I did this or I did that. And then with business owners, like you said, they're not looking at these day-to-day numbers. And for them, they might not have had any clue at all that, not serving food for a week, they couldn't cover payroll, and now they actually see those numbers in front of them. It's gonna be so scary.
Yes, absolutely.
So now, do you think that most businesses are not earning enough income, or they're spending too much, or their margins just aren't good enough? And this probably is different industries and stuff, but what do you see?
I see all of the above.
Okay.
I see all of the above. I see where their costs are too low, where their service costs that they're billing to customers are too low, where they're depending on the industry, and a lot of restaurants, food costs are much higher than they should be in the industry. I have 16 years experience working for high-end restaurants, looking at their financials and running cost margins and analysis, and that's a big one. It is difficult to run and operate a successful restaurant. Number one, without coronavirus,
right?
It's extremely difficult, and that right there is the labor margins, the profit margins, pricing your menu correctly, that for restaurants, and then across the board, service-wise, just you have to constantly look at your numbers every month, every week, every day, whatever it is, and be like, okay, where am I compared to last month? What is looking better? What isn't looking better? And you can't do that if you don't keep your numbers current.
Right.
And that is the big thing. So many of them don't. If you don't have your numbers current, if you don't have your books reconciled on a monthly basis, and what I mean by reconciled, I'm speaking accounting, is are you taking your bank statement every month and going into QuickBooks or whatever program you use, or having somebody reconcile the book balance to make sure all the transactions are in there and accounted for? If you're not, you really have no idea where you stand. And that is really where the circles, I always see the circle, is that they're not looking at it because they don't have the accurate information in front of them.
Right. And so, as let's just say an average small business in Southwest Florida, we have a ton of different service, industries and things. And, how much time do you feel like an owner, not their staff that's maybe dealing with this, but an owner should put into this on a monthly basis to really know what is going on?
I think weekly they should be running reports and looking at them every week. You can take, it's almost like doing a project at home that you don't want to do. There's a saying that says you take 30 minutes and you spend 30 minutes doing it, and then you're done with it and you move on. And I think that's that mentality, then it's not so scary.
Right.
If you
Like
do that,
pieces.
sometimes I take on cleanup. I call them cleanup jobs. There's no other nice way to call them.
Sure.
They have not done anything. We try to simplify it in the just baby steps to get there. Instituting best practices moving forward. It's almost like watching one of those like home makeover editions, but it's like bookkeeping makeover, finance makeover, just little steps at a time to get you there.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I know we talked about restaurants and stuff, but I think that for them, like they're so, and they have longer hours too than a lot of businesses. And like, they're so just like trying to get, the food ordered and the food done. And, like all of the processes of it, that the numbers, like you said, are kind of like, okay, we're still in business. We're still okay. But it's not
a complete
like
afterthought. It's a complete afterthought. And the restaurants are owned, a lot of them are owned by, the chef, and cost margins may not be their expertise, and that's okay. I can't cook, we all have what we're good at. There's no shame in admitting that this is not your strong suit. That is what you just need to have, those people who it is their strong suit on your team looking out for you.
I think that's so important across the board. And like with my, real estate brokerage and, even like helping agents and stuff, I'm like, look, you're really good at the sales part, but you really kind of suck at the paper part. So like maybe you need an assistant to help you with that. But like always to say like, look, I know my limits, I'm really, really good at this. This is where I need to spend my time, but I need someone competent to help me with, whether it's in the beginning, the marketing and advertising and things that, you have to keep doing if you want to continue your business. But you're so busy in the cooking or the, actual service providing that you don't think about those things. But when you don't have the money, you start thinking, don't you?
Yeah, and it's almost like the cart before the horse too, because it's like, well, I don't have the means to hire somebody to watch those numbers, to do that. And it's like, well, if you don't, you're going to be in bigger trouble quicker. It's going to be a much more expensive process sooner than later. Nip it in the bud now. Start looking at it. Have somebody in your corner that is a professional that can look out for these things, because there's a lot of savings out there too that they don't know about. There's a lot of integrations and programs and that experts in a field like mine know about to help save them money too.
Yeah, like I'm surprised, like, there's all kinds of different like forums and stuff on Facebook, and I'm in a couple, for my industry, and like brokers and managers that are like, hey, what program should I use for accounting? And like, they've been in business for years and I don't know what they're using, but then they're asking these questions and it's like, they're like, how do you pay your, agents? And I'm like, well, what have you been doing? But like, it's not important to them. The sales were what was important to them. And, the rest of that just, I don't know.
Like, and now, I've said to everybody, I think we've learned a lot about our banking relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You either love your banker right now or you hate your banker if you've been trying to get these loans. And that goes in, and that also feeds up to employers, the employer-employee relationship.
Yeah.
The employers that are really looking out for their employees right now, if some of those realtors and brokerages don't have their paperwork in order, don't have things in order to take care of those people under them, all of this is going to really stay with us as we move on. It's going to be hard to forget who let us down, but we're going to remember who took care of us too.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one to think about. I was just at another chat and we were talking about like how reactive we are, like individually and as a society, and how like we can be proactive, but like the things that weren't working, get rid of. The things that we really were important to us, to make sure that we're focusing on that, because I think that we don't focus necessarily on the right things until like something smacks us in the face and makes us do it.
Yes. It just smacked us in the face.
It really did. And I know this is a global pandemic and it's not like, just a small little blip for most people. Like it's a really big thing that we're dealing with. But if, like you said, if you had all your accounting in order, and you got your application in for one of these programs right away, your likelihood of getting something was better. And again, the banking relationship, like I saw, some banks like got so many of their people approved, and other banks are just like, like.
Yeah, it's been shocking. The banks, it has been shocking. Kudos to the ones that are really taking care of the small businesses and the little guys. And I've seen a lot of that. I've experienced a lot of that firsthand, and it makes you feel good, when you see that they're like, hey, your SBA loan's approved, I got it back. So it's not all, they haven't all been bad. But you're just seeing, like, I'm in those groups too. I'm in the accounting groups, and I'm in the SBA groups, and you're hearing more and more of the woes and the cries than you hear about the good reviews.
Right.
And that's usually the way it is. But I definitely see a lot of people changing their banking relationship after this.
Yeah, I think, and you sometimes you don't think about it so much, and especially now that the banking industry has changed, even in our adult life, like so much. Like I remember even like 10, 15 years ago, like I had more of a relationship with the people at the bank. Like you walk in, everybody, how you doing? And now it's like, oh, we don't even have like a personal banker available to you, and go online to do that. And so especially like for people even older that are used to that, things have changed a lot. Like they're like, what do you mean I can't come in? And now you can't come into the bank, with everything going on, like everything was just drive through. And but to be able to shift with that, but then at the same time, maybe they'll realize how important those relationships were.
That's a great point. I had an older client who the bank was really looking out for him, but everything had to be done by DocuSign. They didn't know how to do DocuSign.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the 11th hour trying to get this PPP stuff done, and it was a little sad to watch. But like those were the options. I had to help them, walk them through how to fill out the application and everything. And that's a great point. Generation, some of the generational issues that have come because of changes like that.
Right. And what we learned, and I mean, I'm sure lots of different industries learned how you can do things remotely. I mean, we're on a Zoom right now. A lot of businesses sent their workers home and said, we'll do Zoom, and so many technologies that we realized what we can do now that we have the technology. And I think a lot of those things are going to stick with us as we move out of this.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I see Zoom being a big thing for the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're going to drive somewhere and meet with somebody and have a meeting and then drive back, I mean, you're talking 2-3 hours out of your day. You hop on a Zoom, you're done in 20 minutes. It's, why not? Well, if you can see hours, when you're looking at, time is money. Yeah. Now, are you seeing that like you're Zooming more with your clients, or are you on the phone? Or obviously you're not face to face with them right now, but
I have been face to face with like a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority I am just on the phone and email with. I'm not using Zoom for many of them.
Okay. Fair.
But I'm using Zoom in all my networking, like my networking groups, and I've hosted a webinar in the beginning of March on all these programs and used that for it. And then I have a 9-year-old, and so he's on Zoom for play dates in school, which is new.
Right. Yeah, when my little one's on Zoom, I go behind him and make faces. He's like, stop. I'm like, well, you gotta have fun, right? So, okay, so I have a question, like as far as in this, this isn't really, I mean, you work for small businesses, but like just as an average person, what kind of tips would you give them, like as a family and household budgeting and, keeping track? Like what kind of tips would you give them?
We were just talking about technology. There are a lot of apps out there to help them. I don't want to name a couple of them because, well, I use Acorns, and that rounds your savings up. When you swipe your card of $30.55, it rounds up the change to your savings account. There are plenty of apps that will help you learn how to budget, learn how to save. I think those are some great things to look into. I highly encourage everybody to look at getting life insurance. get that in place. Look at your estate planning. I think that's important. I'm somebody that has all of that set up. Looking at if you have a mortgage, how far off are you from paying that mortgage off? What would happen if you pay down principal a little bit every month? My house, knock on wood, thankfully, is completely paid off. I have no mortgage. I have done that. But my father is a dependent of mine. He's disabled, lives in Cape Coral, and I pay his mortgage. And every month when I pay his mortgage, I round up to the next 100 and I put that all towards principal. It's only like $45 a month. But over the course of time, those years, that adds up. Doing small things like that. I know everybody tells you to lay off the lattes. I'm not going to tell you to stop your Starbucks, especially right now. We all, you really want to go for it, okay? Although you can Google and get that good whipped coffee instructions on how to make it at home. And I tell you what, I've been doing that lately, and it's pretty good.
I bet people have learned like a little bit of something while they were home.
Yeah, for sure. But and talk to, if not everybody can afford or have a financial advisor that you have regularly. Mm-hmm. But if you can, talk to somebody, especially too, that's a great way to help other small business owners. A lot of these financial advisors they're small business owners. They're small proprietors, So you're giving back, you're helping somebody else. You might have a neighbor, you might have a friend or a family member, and you're going to help them and they can help you. So that's a great give and take to get us out of this mess. But I really recommend looking at some of these savings apps that are just more simplified for people that, accounting, finances, the money, it scares them, budgeting. There's some great
I feel like if you just have something automatic, like I've had employees before where, payroll is going into 2 different accounts. They put this much into the one they see, and this one they don't ever even think about, it's just hidden before they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all set up like that. You can all do that where you have like $100 a week or whatever going into a second. For business owners, there's some simple things you can look at. Your credit card fees. Is it time to go to price that out and talk to somebody else to lower your credit card fees, your insurance costs? Make sure you're looking at apples to apples. If you start changing deductible options, you're not looking at apples to apples. Somebody might be able to save you some money, but the coverage isn't the same. And that's the same with your home too. Just do that on a personal level. Just keep that in mind. But credit card fees is a big thing for businesses where they can save some money right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that everyone's kind of looked to see like, what were my bills 2 months ago and what are they now? And I've even seen some of my friends like, I'm 70% down on my spending. And I'm like, that's huge. Like if you would have thought of that a year ago or 2 years ago, or how much money you would have somewhere saved, like that's huge amount of money that people are finding right now when they have to.
I haven't put gas in my car since like the beginning of March.
I know.
It's time though. It's on E right now. Like it really is.
Well, that's not very good planning now, is it?
Well, I was just trying to see how far I could go. Like I was like, I've really been going. Like it's been almost 6 weeks now.
Yeah, I think I filled mine up like once, but it's like on 3/4 still. And it's like, for me working in real estate, like that's crazy ridiculous,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you're very busy and stuff, but I appreciate you taking the time. I had like one other just random question, not random, but question for you. Like my oldest is 17 and he's, getting ready to be 18. What advice would you give to young people, whether they're just, 18 or early 20s, that maybe could just help them so much before they are, 30, 40, 50 and looking at things like, what did I do wrong? Like
there is you can start your 401k now, if you start that when you're 21, 22 years old, you will have, it will grow exponentially over the course of time versus when you started at around 30 or even 40, exponentially. I mean, they can look at the graphs, you can Google them and come up with them and see them. And it's mind boggling, how much of a difference it is. There's a book called Adulting 101. Oh. I think it would be a great graduation gift for kids now, or just a gift. that really kind of breaks down, how to do your own taxes, or not how to do your own taxes, but understanding it. How do you buy insurance? How do you, should I rent a house or should I buy a house? We don't see a lot of that life skills taught. And I think that's really important. But I think the number one thing is savings for retirement early. And savings overall. If you get a job with an employer, and I saw this so much in my 16 years in the corporate world, where we had a 3% match. 3%. I had people that would work for us for 6 to 8 years and would not take advantage of that match because they didn't want their 3% deduction. Wherever you go, wherever you start, your first job, your second job, if there is an employer match, you make sure that you are taking advantage of that, because that is free money and you will need that money. Right. That's something I've really seen a lot of over the last 20 years that I would really recommend all young adults to take advantage of.
That's good advice. I think that, people I think about when we had 2007, 8 here locally with the crash of the economy, and people that were maybe teenagers or early 20s then and saw that and scared the crap out of them. I'm hopeful, so they kind of think a little bit differently. And a lot of them, weren't necessarily as crazy financially as maybe our generation and before that. And I'm wondering now, seeing something like this, which is in a lot of ways very similar. I mean, it's a global pandemic and, crazy and stuff, but, just to have your job or your business just totally turned off in a matter of, out of nowhere, it really, I think, has shook a lot of people to want to be okay, especially if they're younger and they weren't already in a position where they have a house and a family and everything to take care of. How can I be prepared in case something like this happens, to me in, 10 or 20 years?
Yeah, and it's important to realize with everything that happens, there is an opportunity. No matter what happens, no matter how negative it is, there is an opportunity. When we look back to 08 and 09, there was a large investment opportunity. That. We've talked about that. I've personally, at that time, I started looking at real estate and started buying cash properties, that I was able to hold on to, manage myself until 2019, and I sold all of them off. And that's how I paid my house off.
Nice.
That was an opportunity from a downward market. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a realtor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, but these are all things that we just have to think about. Where is the opportunity in this for me to help myself, help my family, help my business, help my employees? And just like that, making the pivot on what we can do.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so important right now. And like you said, it's a we're in a situation now, but what are we going to take good from this? Because there's good in there. There's a lot of good. I mean, I see just in general, people spending more time with their families and doing things that, maybe they're making little bitty adjustments that, don't seem huge, but it's bringing them more joy and happiness, which I think is so important too.
Yes.
All right. Well, awesome, April. How can someone reach you if they, need a bookkeeper? What's the best way for them to reach you?
So my email is april@sanddollarbookkeeping.net. Okay. My website is www.sanddollarbookkeeping.net. I did not get the .com. Somebody else owns it. So just remember .net. Yeah.
All right, awesome. I will put that in this video, and then, hopefully people can, learn something and move forward out of this and, see brighter days.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yes, absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.